The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 429, Mr. Somich.
Draft day, huzzah!
Oh, I was so hoping that's what you would do. Yeah, happy 10th annual Racing Dudes Triple Crown Fantasy League draft to you and to all of you watching and listening. If you're listening to this, listen, I got to tell you, at 5 o'clock, so 3 hours from now, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, the 10th annual Racing Dudes Triple Crown Fantasy League draft's happening. And a reason that is important, not just because we're the defending champions, we got that beautiful hardware right there, but realistically, truthfully, these are, some of the sharper minds that cover horse racing, and then a bunch of fans who are, paying very close attention to who will be 3-year-olds going towards the Kentucky Derby next year. And so you're going to hear a lot of horses' names, myself included, that you're like, who the hell is that horse? And you're going to go look them up, and maybe some of them turn into something. Most people didn't know who White Barrio was. You and I drafted the Florida Derby winner, which is pretty great. So you find little gems like that. But really, if you care about the sport and about the Kentucky Derby Trail and the Triple Crown Trail, it's a good one to tune into, because aside from all the fun and shenanigans that go on during this, there is also some helpful information about horses to look forward to. I'm just looking forward to the draft, though. I love this night.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you love this night. You make a total jackass out of yourself once a year when we do this, and it's enjoyed by all. So I'm
as
happy.
Opposed to the 364 days of the year when I do make a jackass of myself, but not wearing a black cowboy hat. That's the difference.
There you go. Yeah, that's fair. I gotta say, I am a little disappointed in you today, though. Last week we give you props for your little streaming, your lines that are on the bottom. This show should be sponsored by Kevin Costner and Jennifer Gardner, or some draft day movie reference. I feel like you missed this one.
Listen, I came in at the last second to update that, and I was like, well, I'm still mad about Jason's service. You're right, though. This is the holdover from Wednesday's show. Wait, no, the Wednesday sequence that we did Monday. So it's still. I'm trying to catch the people that weren't here for Monday's show. Yeah, no. It is draft day. The draft day of the movie. I think it's what you would call a great airplane movie. I saw it in theaters with my wife, and it was a great date experience because it was our first time at like a dining movie theater. So that was cool, but she loved Jennifer Garner. I love football. It was, it was fine. As far as football movies go, it's definitely not one of the worst I've seen.
And not one of the worst. Wildly unrealistic. That general manager would get fired immediately. But other than that, I thought it was an entertaining way to make everyone want to watch a movie about football.
That's true. And it was about football. There really wasn't that much football in it. Maybe that's why it was a nice little meet in the middle kind of thing for a date night. But hey, listen, speaking of date nights, we've got a date with Gulfstream Park's Late Pick 5. We're trying to win one of these early before the calendar year turns, at least one of these ones on the show. A Late Pick 5, and there is a 2-mile turf race. We won't have a full time in this show to get into it, but I do want to let people know, if you're looking at the HL and Jerkens race 9 on this card and you're going, how the hell do I handicap a 2-mile race when they're doing 1, 2, 3, they're going to do 4 turns plus come out of that little chute a little bit. How do I do that? Mike Somich has a full preview coming up on RacingDudes.com shortly. He gets into all of that along with the weights and why all that's important. So I just want to say we're going to kind of run through some things quickly. There's a lot more detail Mike's going to have in that video.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hype the video up that much, but go check it out.
Come on, get excited. It's a lot. All right, we got a lot of horses to talk about in that race, too. So let's get into it. The Late Pick 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, December 17th. Riders up. All right, Mike, here we go. First leg of the Late Pick 5 at Gulfstream Park, Saturday, December 17th. Race 7, it's a 7-furlong dirt sprint. 8 males 4 and up. They're horses that have either started for an 8K tag or less in the last 2 years, or they're in for a 16K tag. Everybody here is running protected, including your favorite, number 2, Sea Trident at 7-5. It's crazy to me this horse still qualifies for this level with the run that he's been on. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, a horse that's in great form right now. Any of the last 4 races beat this field, which makes it pretty tough to look in a different direction, especially since when you go through this field, there's just not that much to get inspired about. This was an interesting sequence. I mean, this is, I think, a clear, I'm going to single here, the 2 Sea Trident. I think it's a pretty clear single where you got to get a little funky. You got to really make a case for what's going to happen for this horse to lose. Uncork the Bottle, a little interesting to 3. Do Up Don, a little interesting to 5. But when you go top to bottom here, it's not like C Trident is going to be run off his feet early, and so you're worried he can't go gate to wire. Was able to sit off the pace last race and ended up just missing there. Went wire to wire 3 of the previous 4, but that 4th race back came from 3rd. So you're seeing some versatility in how C Trident's been able to win. And again, the form is just phenomenal. This is the level he's beaten 4 times already. So I kind of just swallowed the chalk here, went with a 2-horse C Trident to kick off the sequence with a single. I'm interested to who else you used, because to me, that was one of the toughest parts about getting around C Trident. There's not anyone else that's inspiring confidence in here for me.
Yeah, initially when I looked at this, one way I looked at playing this was singling the 2 and then going really deep in the turf marathon. And I decided I'm going to take a stand there. And honestly, not that this really should have bearing on how we do it, but our show, when we single stuff, whether one or the other or both, it really rarely ever works out. So I was like, maybe I'm going to rethink how aggressive I get with my singles when I'm handicapping. I went with a 3 Uncork the Bottle. And a huge reason is Irad's picking up this mount. This is a horse that, if you look on paper, you're like, man, that mile race, that wasn't very good. You don't like to see that. But when we're going 7 furlongs, you like a horse that can get a 1-turn mile like the 2-horse. But with this horse, we're picking up Irad Ortiz Jr. And here's what I like. 6 of the 9 career wins from this horse from 29 starts. 6 of them are on the Gulfstream Park dirt. So we're at a spot that we love. It's all been on fast dirt. That's going to be, or he's got 6 wins on fast dirt, but he does have 2 wins on wet. So if we get some Gulfstream weather, that screws things up. The last effort at this distance turned out to be a win, so I like that as well. That was the last time this horse, by the way, was in for a tag, in for $8,000 over this course, gets the win. And we go 13 months and counting without running for another tag. You could argue maybe at some points we should have, but we do have 3 wins during that span as well. So to me, this is the best horse of the others here, that just in case the 2, for whatever reason, doesn't fire. But to me, the 2 looks like lone speed. If the 2 gets pressure, the 2 is shown he can push. And we're cutting back from that mile to 7 furlongs. A lot of horses in here. I don't know that they want to do either of those distances.
Yeah. The 3 would be the other use for me if I was going to use a second horse here. Part of the reason I'm not going to use a second horse here is because it's the 2 favorites, and I like the chalk more. So I don't want to be in a situation where I'm going short price, and my fallback is the second favorite. This race is just not one that I love. Joe DiBaggio, a little interesting, the 6, but probably doesn't want the 7 furlong distance. Probably is much better at 6 here. So that kind of hurts the Joe DiBaggio case. I thought Do Up Don, the 5 I mentioned him, was a little bit interesting. There's a 4-year-old who has been better since coming back off the layoffs and has back races that compete with it, although those are at lower levels. So a couple questions there on that side for Do Up Don. But to me, it's 2, 3, 5, and that's really as deep as I would consider going. I'd probably go 2, 5 if I went too deep, just to try and get a bigger price in than the 3. But the 2 has 5 races out of his last 6 that beat the field pretty handily. So it's really whether or not we can run back to any of those efforts for C Trident.
I mean, one thing too, Claudio Gonzalez isn't one of those trainers that everybody's rushing to claim off of. But since he's claimed this horse, all 5 starts since August, he's running back protected. And I guess if Gulfstream's not going to make it any harder for him to win at this level over and over and over, why would you do anything different? You cannot fault the connections for doing it, because, you get in as owners and trainers, a lot of us, we just want to win races. I mean, it'd be nice if we could win graded stakes, but you give me a horse like the 2 C Trident that every time it goes to the gate, I'm going, boys, dress up nice because we're getting our picture taken today. I mean, it's really hard to hate someone like that.
I mean, hell of a claim, right? Claims for $12,500, is now finished 1st or 2nd in 4 straight races with $30,000 purses. I mean, it just has already quadrupled the money without having the horse reclaimed, and is able to just continue to do it here. And I would not be surprised if there's another check in line for them on Saturday.
Let's move on here. We got the second leg of the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, December 17th, race 8. We've got a 6 furlong dirt sprint, 9 maiden juvenile colts, 8 of them making their debuts, including your favorite, the number 8 Infinite Series for Safi Joseph Jr., Ira Ortiz Jr. going to ride this horse. Now, you went 3 deep. You used both of my 2 horses that I'm going with, so I'll let you take the lead.
Yeah, I mean, I put Infinite Series on top. This one, again, a really logical choice in here. Safi usually runs well with these first-time starters, multiple bullet workouts on the bottom side, so you got to like that. IRAD takes them out for Safi. That tells you this is one of those Safi horses that is going to definitely fire. I didn't want to single here, first off, because I singled in the first leg. If I played a press ticket, I would single the 8 here, go single to start it out, and then spread a little bit more. I think the back half of this sequence is more difficult than the front half. I'm interested to see what price we end up getting on Infinite Series, because this is one of those spots where this horse may go off at like 4 to 5, and then all of a sudden it's, do you really want to start out the sequence with a even money shot in the first leg and a 4 to 5 in the second? Because that it's hard to make money when you're doing that. And Gulfstream Park today kind of showed you that there. It was a very chalky day over at Gulfstream. So look, the 8 Infinite Series on top for me. This was my only must use, and one I actually considered singling if I wanted to try and get around that 2 in the first leg.
Yeah, it's a little scary singling juvenile 2-year-olds like that, unless it's Bob Baffert at Los Al. I don't think he's actually lost a race there in 13 years. But Infinite Series is one of those horses that everything on the page looks good. I didn't look myself. I got this info from DRF. You probably saw it too. That work back on October 29th was a trios work. 47-4 from the gate, very strong, but was working with 2 horses that were also unraced for Safi. Both of them won their debuts. Their buyers were 62 and 58. The 58 came in a maiden 16K claimer, but they were debut winners, so you do like to see that. Hopefully that overcomes Tiz now. He's not great with debuting horses, only 7%. We know with Tiz Magician, who we know, they get better as they get older. I tried to find reasons actually to pass on this, and I was like, no, this is my top pick. Don't overthink this. If things get screwy, if this horse doesn't show up with its best effort, I went with the number 3 Love Spell as the other horse I used here. Brendan Walsh debuting this horse for Tyler Gaffney. And you see Brendan Walsh 4 starts at the meet as of the time of this recording, 2 seconds in a third. Those seconds were by a neck and a head, and the neck loss was a debuting 2-year-old in maiden special weight. So Brendan Walsh is bringing good stock that's running well. Maybe just needs a little bit of extra racing luck, and we're getting Tyler Gaffney on the board. I looked this up specifically at Gulfstream Park. So I was like, man, they're usually really good together. You see 23% winners there. If you expand to the 5 years, it gets to 53% in the money, and their ROI is well over $2. So I think if there's an upset on this big favorite, that we're probably going to be close to even money with the 8. To me, I want the 3 to run right back.
Yeah, Ken Theros, excellent first-time out starter, excellent sire down in Florida as well. I also like the fact that this horse was up at Saratoga for Brandon Walsh. A lot of times when he has his horses up there, those are generally his best stock. So this is one of his better horses. Was working up there, came down to Florida. Now we're debuting here. Love Spell was my second pick, the 3 horse. So this is the horse I had in second as well. I also used the horse on the rail, Araj. The main concern here is the rail, to be honest with you. I hate first-time stars breaking off the rail, but I do like that gate work last time, 47-4. And if you go back a little bit further, there's a 46-4 work as well over that training track. So I think this is one that's probably ready to pop 17% with his first-time starters, Jose D'Angelo. That is $3.14 ROI. And then you get Luis Saez aboard. That kind of is the icing on the cake for me. When I see one of these horses and all they're doing is running 12s or less, and you've got 4 workouts at 4 furlongs that are sub 48, usually they're ready to go, especially as 2-year-olds. So I didn't want to leave the 1 out of it here if I'm going to go more than just the 8.
Purely just because of the price, because those are the 3 horses we talked about are your 3 lowest, 3 of the 4 lowest prices, because we're not using the only experienced runner, the 6-point Liam. I didn't, but you're also not going to be using I think he's the favorite, the 4-1 horse in the big stake. So, ticket structure wise, I understand why you went deeper here than I did. Makes sense, but not gonna do it. But really, you nailed it. The rail draw, because I saw those works with size of board. And I thought, oh man, this is good. Man, if you were like breaking from the 3 post, I'd feel better at swallowing 7-2 on it. But hey, if you like him, not gonna. Before we move on, let me ask you this: the fantasy draft for future 3-year-olds is tonight. None of these horses will probably get drafted, but do you think the winner of this race is an early claim once we hit January?
No.
Nobody out of here is going to wow you that much.
No, I mean, Infinite Series is the one that I guess you could make a case for, because it's Tiz now should stretch out pretty well. But this is, when you look at the buy prices on these horses, I mean, your highest price is going to be a 2-horse who's $230,000. Which is, a decent buy price, but ends up in the Somobomb, gets Alvarado first time out. Works aren't great. It's just not a horse that you're probably looking at. If you look at like Collect This Money, $15,000 standing price for Collected, sold for 70, has a couple good workouts, but then it's Anemia and Bring Your Hands Up. It's just, there's nothing that inspires confidence that these horses could turn out to be superstars. Like honestly, Love Spell, well, I guess, yeah, Love Spell probably
that's the one I was going to say
as winning a stakes at some point. But I would be very surprised if any of them get claimed.
It seems like there's always that one horse early. It's usually January around Pegasus time. There's that one horse that debuts and everybody goes, "Oh my God, look out!" And Brendan Walsh, I can't think of the damn horse's name, but Brendan Walsh had one, and then they just don't run a lick after that. So my thought was, if Love Spell has a big debut here, that could be the horse you see someone claiming. But if you want to draft a horse out of this, I know there's some fantasy teams watching right now. If you guys want to draft him, go for it. You're not going to have much fight from us. Let's move on, Mike.
One thing that's interesting about the draft and then these teams is how important the trainer is. And I don't think people always realize that. We don't have any of these really big name trainers here. Safi Joseph, obviously the one that you could say is getting to that point of rising up, but you don't have any of the Pletchers, the Browns. You don't have any of, on the West Coast, the Bafferts, right? And if you watch the draft tonight, if I said Ashton, Pletcher, Baffert, out of the 50 draft picks, how many will be trained by those three? We'll add Cox in there. Cox, Baffert, Pletcher.
You're looking at a very high percentage, well over 50. I mean, you're going to see almost 50% of the first round, spoiler alert, are Bafferts. And that's just the first round. And he's got B and C squad horses too.
Yeah. So when you look up and down the training list here, that kind of tips the hand of whether or not you're going to expect any of these to get on that Triple Crown trail.
Let's move on, Mike. Third leg, great point, by the way. Third leg of the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, December 19th. This is the race I was talking about. Look out, race 9, the HL and Jerkens Handicap, a 2-mile turf marathon. They start in this little tiny chute just outside the far or inside the far turn, and then they go around the first turn, second turn, and then around the first turn, the second turn again. A couple of horses in here may not like to do that. A few of them we know can go that far. Can they do it fast enough where you're going on top?
Well, before I do that, let's talk about what a handicap is first off, because we don't get these very much in America. You see them a lot overseas. So these handicap stakes races, your weight is based on how successful your career has been, basically. So depending on what races you've run and what age you are and how you've placed in those races, you get weights determining, or your weight is based off of those determinations. So it's very rare in the U.S. that you will see a horse without a bug jockey having a massive weight edge over the rest of the field. In this case, you have Another Mystery, who's by far the most accomplished horse in this race, carrying 126 pounds. You have Barberini, the 11, carrying 114. You have a graded stakes winner, the 5, carrying 116, 10 pounds less than Another Mystery. So weight plays into here, and we don't talk a ton about weight, but it matters, especially when you're going further distances. And, oh, hey, we're going 2 miles today, which means that the weight differentials here make even bigger of a difference. That is one of the reasons I'm going to put the 5 Ready for the Lady at 20-1 on top in this spot. We're carrying 116. This is a 3-year-old who's shipping down from Woodbine for Roger Atfield. This is a tale of two different horses when you look at how this horse is run on the synthetic versus how he is run on the turf. It started out with career on synthetic, came back, first race as a 3-year-old on synthetic, switched over to the turf, broke the maiden going a mile, I believe it was a quarter on the turf, comes back in a grade 3 at 1 3/8 and wins and beats a pretty good field of 6. If you actually go back and look who's in that field, not exactly some not shabby horses at all. Looks really good doing it from coming off the pace. It's a scenario where I think this horse wants every bit of the 2 miles. Carrying 116 pounds, I think, is a very big advantage. Paco knows the turf course very well. I wouldn't be shocked if we get a big time upset here. I'm going to go with the 5 Ready for the Lady on top.
So I went 4 deep. You went 5 deep. You can make an argument for going, if you want to hit the L button and go really tight in those first 2 legs. The only horse we agreed on is the 5.
There we go.
That was your top pick. And so many great points. I keep looking at this form going, why is this horse 20-1? And I can't forget at last year's championship meet, Atfield rolling in with these horses from Woodbine, and they were ready to roll, and they were in form, and they came in at 20-1 and went pop on us. So yeah, I love it. If those 3 turf starts before the 2 synthetic tries, those are the ones that really stood out to me. And you're going to have a lot of horses tiring from this, right? You can bet that the 1 and the 12 we know will have the stamina to at least, go the distance. A lot of these horses are going to be fading pretty heavily, or, like Sole Volante, just not even involved. Paco's going to have to bully ball his way through. If there's aside from maybe Irad on the favorite, who do you want bully balling? And, after who's going to have the stamina as a jockey this late at, after a mile and 3/4 to still go, I'm going to go and start knocking everybody out of his way. Paco's one of the few you can trust. Sonny Lone, you could say you could trust, but again, Sole Volante, neither of us are using. I don't know why he's here, but he hasn't won since June of 2020. I think it's been a very long time for Sole Volante. All right, so we agree on the 5. Yeah, it's a ways back. We agree on the 5. Who's your next up?
Okay, this is I'm not as creative here. I'm going to go with the 9 here. Quiñones. How do you pronounce this one?
Caninos. I don't know.
I actually watched a replay so I could pronounce it properly on the video, and I forgot. So the 9 Caninos is my second pick here. This is a horse that has been facing some very, very good horses up in New York. Has tried 2 miles before and wasn't terrible doing that in the Belmont Gold Cup, a grade 2 down there. Mike Maker in these stretch out races generally does very well. Claimed 2 back out of the Morley barn into the Maker barn. Goes a mile and 16th to kind of prep up for this, and now we're stretching out to a 2-mile distance, which I think shouldn't be an issue here for Quiñones. You get Saez aboard. To me, this is one of those all systems go horses. We talked about how important trainers are for 2-year-olds a minute ago. These marathon distances, Mike Maker is very, very good at, and so I will upgrade his horses when we're going that 1.5 to 2-mile distance, and he often looks for horses like this to claim, just to run those really long distances. And I think that's what we have here with Quiñones. So I like the 9 in this spot as my second pick.
There are 3 Mike Maker horses in here. I didn't use any of them. For me, a big issue is the price. I really don't like value engineering. He actually is the favorite. The morning line is 7-2. I think I like Caninos better. I would at least than value engineering. My thing with him, with Saez aboard, I wish I could point back to races in the form where he was forwardly placed early because no speed here, and the horse was successful. You look back at the Grand Cartier going 1.5 miles. That was the only time he was really pushed along early, and he ends up fading way out of it. Loses to Gouffo, but once he got past, he kind of threw in the towel. Saez is a fantastic rider, but I'm going to play against both of those. On that note, do you want to talk about value engineering as well?
Yeah, I'm going to use value engineering here too. This is one where you look at the 9 and the 10 carrying 120 pounds versus the 126 on Another Mystery. And that to me made a big difference here. That extra 6 pounds with the horses that I think are about the same. They're in my mind, the 3, 9, and 10 are the 3 most talented horses in this race from what we see on paper. And getting a 6-pound weight break on both the 9 and the 10 led me to that direction to leave off the 3 horse here. I don't love horses leaving the Chad Brown barn, especially when they're on turf. But if you look at those 80K N3X races, Atone, Bye Bye Melvin, Soldier Rising, those are some pretty darn good horses that were winning those races. And so this is a drop in class in a lot of ways for value engineering from those 80K N3X in New York down to a 100K stakes race. There's no Atone in this race, or Bye Bye Melvin in this race, right? Or Soldiers Rising in this race. This is not exactly world beaters here. And you're getting a little bit of a weight break. You're carrying basically middleweight, but you're getting a weight break against the favorite, or the horse I think will go off as a favorite in Another Mystery. You get Mike Maker, you get Jose Ortiz, who I think won 4 today, something crazy like that. This is one of those horses where I would expect value engineering to run one of his better efforts. And if he runs to his best, he's going to be tough here.
Great points on him. I really don't want to eat 7-2, but I guess if there's one horse that you want to, or one trainer, sorry, in a situation where it's like, well, Chad Brown doesn't have the horse. This was a Klarovich Stables horse, and they sold him. It looks like it was sold privately. I don't see a sale information on the page right here, but the horse was sold, and it's to Maker and to Michael Hoy, who is one of the co-owners, and Hoy is Maker's top client when it comes to buying these long stretch out horses. So I'm gonna pass, but I realize full well how risky it is to pass on Makers, especially when there's 3 of them in here. He's not one of those guys that's like, well, if he's got 3 in there, none of them have a chance. Now he's probably got 3 in there because he thinks at least 2 of them have a good chance. Do you want to stay on the Maker train and talk about the 7, clear that out as well?
Sure. I use the 7 Wicked Fast as well. This is the higher price Maker, 15-1. This is my main concern with Wicked Fast here is going to be the distance. I'm not sure the 2 miles is exactly what we want, but again, it's one of those where you're like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and trust Mike Maker, especially since he claimed this one. It switched over to his barn after a 1.5 mile race. He was in the Jockey Club Derby. grade 3 there, got IRAD aboard for Joe Sharp. Right after that race, they switch over to the Maker Barn, go back into grade 2 Hill Prince, which I actually think is a sneaky good effort. If you look at that, Celestial City wins the race. You see he comes in 4th, 2.5 back. Well, he was McKinnon was a head behind. Grand Sonata was a nose behind. He was right there after that. So he was right with McKinnon essentially at 1 1/8 in that race. I wouldn't be shocked if you see a pretty good effort from Wicked Fast here. I like the 15-1 price. The big time question is going to be the distance with Wicked Fast and whether or not 2 miles is good. But we're carrying 115 again, getting 11-pound weight break on another mystery. That's a big difference here. I like Miguel Vasquez picking up the mount. So I'll take a little bit of a swing with the highest price maker.
It's for me, I think this is, I mean, price wise, I'm not saying anything. This is the least likely winner of the 3. And going 2 miles, Tourist was a miler. So if at the halfway point we wanted to call a winner, maybe it's going to be Wicked Fast. But 2 miles, you see who the jockeys are that Maker got. He got Saez and Jose Ortiz to ride the other 2. And Vasquez, a great jockey when it's not the championship meet, but we're bringing in the big boys now. He's about to get overshadowed. So didn't use that one.
Prices home. That's what he's going to do.
That's true. Let me talk about my topic. I did use the number 3, another mystery, and a huge reason IRAD Ortiz is back aboard. And you see 2 back going 1.5 miles at Kentucky Downs against Red Knight, against Gufo, who was coming off of winning the Sword Dancer for the 2nd straight year, a grade 1 race. This horse misses by a nose and a neck, and it was a rough trip, and he still got it done. He's going to have a rough trip coming from the back. IRAD's aboard. I love that IRAD's going to be pushing him. The dam, Iowa, I should have made you say that one. The daughter of Lord at War, who was a good turf marathon horse. She was also a great long distance turf horse, and Dynaformer, we know, produces plenty of stamina at the Sun Temple City, also doing that. The horse has hit the board 5 of the last 6, and also 4 of the last 5 attempts when going at least 1.5 miles. That really caught my attention. If you scribble off the Churchill Downs try, which the Churchill Downs turf course was absolute dog shit the last 1.5 years, this horse really, to me, fits very well here. You notice he was trained by Chris Block, who's the owner and the breeder. Chris Block runs at fairgrounds during this time of year. I'm guessing Chris Block doesn't have a Florida trainer's license, which is why we've sent it to James Gulick, who takes over. Gulick, 5 starters, 2 wins, and a third already at the meet. So I think it's a pretty good move that way. And, this horse would be a fairgrounds probably if they had a turf course, but just like Churchill, theirs is also dog shit, so they don't. But go ahead and tell me, I know the weight was an issue for you. Another mystery's been carrying steadily 124, 25, 26 pounds in his last several starts, and it hasn't bothered him.
Yeah, so is everyone else in those starts, though. Not everyone else is carrying 124, 125, 126 pounds like they are today. 2 miles actually shouldn't be an issue for another mystery. I actually know this horse pretty well. This was one I did not pick at the final table of the NHC tournament that I was between. That won at 23-1 or dead heated at Sam Houston, yep. So don't love that. But this is a horse that I played prior to that when it was 20-1. I think it was out of the Atchison barn back then. I can't remember where it was. But won at a nice price with Santana up at 1.5 miles. I have no issues with this horse in the distance. This to me comes down to 2 factors. The main one is the weight and the price. This is going to be your favorite, I think, when they go off. I think you're going to see 5-2, 3-1 range here on another mystery who's going to carry high weight and who is in a field that I think you could go a lot of different directions in. And so I don't want to include the horse who I think is going to go off as the favorite. I think the IRAD factor is going to come in here. And look, this is going to be just a wild race, because you're going to see a very slow, dawdling pace. Another mystery is going to be toward the back of that field. And then you're going to have to weave through traffic. You're going to have some horses that are going, some that aren't. It sets up for trip trouble for another mystery here as well. So I'd almost want to be a little in the clear here, or more forwardly placed than where I think another mystery is. And I think another mystery is going to be all the way in the back, tucked on the inside. You're just asking for trouble. You're carrying high weight. You're going to be the lowest price. Add all those things up. I'm going to try and beat the horse.
Bottle of tequila, the one horse of the 3, who's farther back as they make it on the backstretch the first time?
I mean, the one probably, but that's look, you don't really know, because the one's been jumping over shit every time he's been running. So we'll see where he ends up.
Yeah, I was going to say technicality. If he jumps the rail as they come down the front stretch the first time, he's automatically in last, and I win the back.
He was 30 lengths back last time he ran a flat track race. So
it reminds me of, who was it? Sadler's Well had like a single digit early time form pace rating. And you're like, I've never
Really?
seen that. That's almost the one horse. I'm going to use the one horse's stablemate that's in here as my next pick. I hate the post, but number 12, Agitare. Trainer Carrie Breon is an Irish hurdles trainer, jumps trainer. She comes over and wins a lot of the jumps races, especially in New York. She has the one in here who was a flat racer and actually did pretty well. But like you said, Mike, I think he's going to have about 20 lengths too much to do. And I don't love the jockey that's aboard to get the job done. I do love the jockey, Julian Leproux, riding the 12 for us, and a horse that was a flat runner throughout his time overseas. They had considered, they'd actually had bought him to try and get him to be a jumper, and it didn't really work. They bring him to Fairhill, which is a unique, Fox Hills, which is a very unique turf course in Maryland. It's mostly used for jumping, and they have one small meet. It's mostly for jumps. They have this 2-mile uphill race. It's like Kentucky Downs, but longer when they race there. And the horse was, when asked, did a very good job of just accelerating and kept going and going and going. It was a yielding turf course, a lot of the best form overseas in Ireland. It's looking a lot more yieldy, but I cannot ignore the fact that this horse, in its first time ever racing in America, granted at Fox Hills, just showed up and just beat the hell out of some horses with some proven form. I did use the 12. What didn't you like about him?
Mainly that the 13 ran second. I mean, if we're going to be
well,
because
by the field was second.
Well, yeah, but 4 lengths, but the 13 ran second in that race. And the 13's awful. And I wouldn't even consider using the 13 in this spot. And so for me, it's one of those spots where, okay, if I say that the 13 is close to the 12, I'm not interested. I'm also like, I don't really want this post here. This is going to be tough to work out a trip from. If you're looking at 5 turns and also a half turn into the stretch, you're going to be wide on the half turn. You're going to be at least a couple wide on the first turn. And I just, that 8-1 price, if we're looking at 20-1, I'd rather play the other green on the inside than I would the 12, based on the post.
I love the fact that the 12 overseas, steadily carrying 130 plus pounds, 144 there, drops to 123, and then the 156, 158, 154, 119. He's not even going to field Suarez aboard.
It's gonna be like a feather in the back.
In that spot. I ended up going, I went 4 deep here. I was trying to figure out, I actually didn't mind the 13 if he drew in, because I thought the 13 might be able to take this field gate to wire. There's no pace. It's going to be extremely dawdling. What about the 8? Does the 8 lead? And if the 8 leads, the 8 isn't lead, is going to be very close and get first run. A horse that was clean for $8,000 go off and win this. These are kind of horses that kind of sneak up and win these spots, right? I love the horse at this distance. I think the fact that we're going long, we've got a Son of English Channel out of a Galileo mare, like the 2 Euros, the 2 Irish horses that Breon's bringing in, no issue with the distance. And unlike those two, has shown a propensity to be forwardly placed, likes to be close to a dawdling pace and take advantage of it. I don't know much about the trainer, Jeff Piles. Edwin Gonzalez, that's a jockey you would know a lot better than I would. But just looking at this horse's form and the fact that he's won, 4 of his last 5 starts, Kentucky Downs a mount of 5/16 gets a win. Kentucky Downs mount a half gets second. Mount 3/8 at Belterra Park. Yeah, it's Belterra, but you won a mount 3/8 and you won by about 5 lengths. So I'm going to use the horse. I think the price might, would definitely get into a favorable spot for me here, but you didn't like the 8.
I didn't use the 8. I didn't dislike the 8. I think Time for Trouble is going to be in the lead for a long time. It's just whether or not he'll be in the lead the last time that we call the names, right? Time for Trouble is your clear leader in this spot. I think he goes to the front and tries to take this field gate to wire going 2 miles. I have more of a concern around the distance here for Time for Trouble. I'm not sure 2 miles is what he's looking to do, especially if he is the one setting the pace and anyone decides to press. If anyone gets a little kooky, I think it could be pretty tough for him to go gate to wire. Most of his wins at those longer distances that you mentioned, actually all of them, he came from off the pace, was able to sit behind other horses. This time he's going to be the one in front of the pack, trying to do a new thing. There was enough there, and there were enough prices around that I wanted to take a shot against him. One of those prices that I used, the 11 Barberini, I thought was pretty interesting here as well. You're getting 8-1 on Barberini. This is a horse. It's a 3-year-old by Flintshire out of an Empire Maker mare. Should want every bit of this 2-mile distance. Flintshire, one of those really successful sires overseas. Third off a layoff here as a 3-year-old. Ruiz comes down from Maryland to take this mount here. This is a horse that just has been awesome. If you look at those last 3 starts, all 3 of them wins, all 3 of them improving. this is a horse that deserves a shot, taking a shot against Stakes Company. I like this spot here at 2 miles. I think this horse will be a little more forwardly placed because of the distance, has shown a closing kick, likes to win, gets a massive weight break here, carrying the race low 114 pounds. I think it's all systems go here for the 11 Barberini.
You know what? I'm going to call an audible because this was the last horse off for me in this spot. I did like it. I just needed to make a better argument. As far as the distance goes, hasn't tried it, but you keep thinking Flintshire, definitely loved running very long on turf. Empire Maker Mare should be able to handle, at least a mile and a half. After a mile and a half, most of these horses have question marks, but I think this is a horse that sneaks in. So my ticket's going to get a little more expensive. I am going to throw it in that 8-1 price, and I think we might get a good chunk of it there. There was this quote that Dale Romans had from ages, I don't know, like 2-3 years ago, and it always stuck with me. This is the point when I really was like, maybe I could be a better trainer than Dale Romans. He said that he never has seen in his life that gelding a horse moves it up and believes that makes it better. And I'm not saying that's exactly what happened with the 11 Barberini. He just had one debut and it was, pretty terrible. But you geld the horse, and look what happens after that. The horse has been running very well. It got some time off and is just continuing to bring those buyers up and up and up on a slow, steady pattern. Trainer in Arn Delacour, that is his style. And so this feels like the right time to try Stakes. 2 miles, the big question mark. But again, you say that for a lot of these horses.
Yeah, this is one of those times too. You'll note I'm taking a couple 3-year-olds here against olders. This is the time of the year that I'm more interested in playing 3-year-olds against olders than earlier in the season. Now we're this late in the season. You're seeing more mature 3-year-olds. Everyone changes. Every horse gets a year older on January 1st, which is kind of just mind-blowing, right? So in that case, you have some less mature, more mature 3-year-olds. By this time in the year, most of them are getting into their full maturity. And so you're going to see better 3-year-old versions of themselves. And this is when I'm starting to willing to play these type of horses. And in these handicaps, 3-year-olds get massive weight edges. And that's one of the reasons I'm ending up on multiple 3-year-olds here in this spot, because we're later in the season. They're more mature. They're able to compete with older horses better. And you are getting a huge weight edge to get them to do that. So I kind of like the 3-year-olds in these type of spots.
So much for me keeping this one short. I thought this was the short version. For the long version, check our OnlyFans account. Let's move on. Penultimate leg of the Lapik 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, December 10th. Race 10, it's a 6 furlong dirt sprint for 8 males, 3 and up. N1X allowance, a couple optional claimers in here. You and I agree on one horse. That's the 6-5 favorite, number 7, Nitrous Channel. Big question, if he comes back, but if he does, this horse is long gone, right?
I could see a world where he gets drilled early from a pace perspective, and that's why I went too deep here. If he comes back health or good, and he's in form and he's able to get the lead here, it could be very, very, very tough. The 4-horse Living Water, I think, could put some early pressure on, and that's the way that Nitrous Channel loses this race. Is that you see Living Water go out there, press Nitrous Channel early. He's not able to make the rail, sitting too wide, and then all of a sudden someone's able to come up and grab him. But there's not a ton of situations here where the 7 is not a deserving favorite.
Yeah, that long layoff is a slight concern, but Weaver's 22% in these off of these kinds of layoffs, and we're putting blinkers on. So if you have any worries of the horse running off a little too rank early, well, that'll keep him in. Also, the go race from facing from the debut race, and you go straight into a stakes where you're facing winners. You're second to Provocateur, horse that I owned with my racehorse, a multiple dirt stakes winner at 6 furlong. So a good horse to finish behind. There is that question mark. So we each just split up a little bit. I went with 2 other horses, starting with the 4 Living Water. Liz Doblay's first off the claim, 32% in normal situations. When she runs them back first off the claim, protected specifically, 43% winners. That was a huge thing, a huge stat that I loved. Yes, the horse is going to be going probably with the 7 up front, but I think the 4 might end up leading. And if the 7 isn't there with the horse, maybe the blinkers don't fix everything. Sometimes they screw a horse up. If the blinkers screw this horse up, or he just needs a start, to me, the 4 is going to be sitting in a perfect spot if the 7 needs one off the bench.
She claimed this for herself as well. I'd love to know the stats on when she's the owner and it is protected back, because I bet that would be even higher.
Yeah, we need, if DRF could add one stat to the formulator, give me owner tracking too. That's what I want to see. I want to mess with the owner stats there too, but that's a great point. She does own the horse. Cool.
I didn't use the 4. I think it's just a notch below the 7. I think the 7 being in the race makes the 4's life a hell of a lot more difficult. This is a spot where if the 7's out, the 4 makes the ticket. If the 4's out, the 7 might be a single, because those two horses are joined at the hip in a lot of ways, not just in the first furlong, but also in the end result, depending on whether or not they put that pressure on each other. I ended up 2 deep here. I went with the 1. He's in charge. This horse is shipping in from New York. I think has been facing better. Actually, I can guarantee you he's been facing better, running an optional claiming races at the $62,000 level, the $50,000 level. Got down to the claiming ranks one time. That was a $50,000 claimer at Keeneland, where this horse won by open lengths, by 2 1/4 lengths. Last time out, lost to Montauk Daddy at stage left, Nova Rags, all pretty good horses up there in New York. Now we're dropping down here at the 25K N1X level, by far the lowest we've seen in a while. Get Paco Lopez aboard, and to me, this is all about the setup. That's why this horse makes the ticket. If there's one horse that can take advantage of those two burning up front, I think it's the one horse. He's in charge. That's my pick up the pieces horse here. So if Nitrous Channel does get essentially challenged on the lead, isn't able to get that 6 furlongs off the break, he's in charge is the one I think who comes up and takes the money.
Guys, speaking of the draft, Novarax, famously a Vinny draft pick that didn't pan out, but like I said, it was a Vinny draft pick, so kind of an oxymoron there. I looked at the 1. I think this horse has got the talent. I think is a great candidate to hit the board. For me, trying to see this horse winning, it was a little bit much, but you're getting a good price and a horse that definitely has as much back class as anyone else in here. I will say with the 4 as well, I'd like him better if Jaramillo rode through the claim. I'd love him if Jaramillo rode through the claim. Jaramillo does not ride through the claim. Reyes is 19% with the Double Barn with a nice ROI, but it seems like this horse's success was, Jaramillo, once he got aboard, was when things started to go well for the 4. Last one for me, just to his outside, the 5 Ludington, 10-1 odds here. Ran its best buyer in 22 months. First off the claim, last out for Jennifer Young. It was at this level, and specifically when this horse races at the optional claimer, non-winners and one other than level at Gulfstream Park. It's the last 7 starts, 3 wins, 2 runner-up finishes. This is where the horse fits. It's perfectly spotted here. You see throughout its career, it's been here a lot. That effort also, by the way, that 83 buyer that was its best in 22 months, that came off of a 3-month break. If Young moves this horse forward at all, second off of the claim, second off of the break, I think this horse is extremely sneaky. There are races in the back class that definitely say the horse can compete. Did win gate to wire, but has also won from sitting off a few lengths and being able to pass when the pace started to fall apart. So at 10-1, this was, I think, about the last horse to make my ticket, but I did want to talk about Ludington a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't knock you for using the 5, 3, or 6. I think all 3 of those have a shot here at being a reasonable closer. The 6 is going to sit a little bit closer to the pace, picks up IRAD, getting a 10-1 price off the claim for Kelsey Danner. The 5, you mentioned that last race, good enough to win. And that last race actually turned out pretty good when you look back at who was in that spot. Don't love the 23-1 down to 10-1 price, but I think you're actually going to probably float up from the 10-1 morning line. So you're still probably going to get somewhere between 12 and 15 on that 5 Ludington. And the 3 Celestial Gaze, the other one I thought had a chance to kind of take advantage of it. But I felt like the 1 was the best of those 4. That's why I ended up 2 deep.
Not that we need to talk about it. I'm surprised nobody in the chat's giving me any shit for not using the 8 Magic Eclipse in this spot. That's all right. We don't need to talk about it. 5th and final leg of the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, December 17th, race 11. Whoops, we're back on the turf. I went too far. 9 maiden males, 3 and up. If you're Florida bred, you run protected. If you're not, you're in for the 40K tag, and that attracted Saffie Joseph Jr., Chad Brown, and Todd Pletcher. Those latter 2 have the co-favorites thereabouts at 5-2 and 3-1. You could either go really short with the price. You can throw in some bombs. What'd you do?
I ended up going 3 deep here. I used the 2 and the 4, who both are coming down from tougher races. Those New York maiden special weights dropping in here for the 40K level is a pretty steep drop. They both faced Evan Harlan last time out, who won both those races. Or I'm sorry, it was the same race. They both faced Evan Harlan last time out, and that race, when you look at the 2 specifically outperform, stumbled start, ended up just walking off, was the favorite in that spot. The races 3 back are all good enough to win this race, and that's really where the key is, especially those last 2 on turf at Saratoga. That gets the job done here. Drawn much better than that last race with the 10 out of 10 post. Now we're on the 2 post. Has some tactical speed, which I think is a key here, because I didn't see a ton of speed in this race, which I think I have a gate to wire horse in mind here, so I'm going to go 3 deep. I'm going to use the 2 outperform, use the 4 unexpected income, and then I'm going to go with a horse I think can take the field gate to wire.
Interesting. We both went the same way. We both went the 2, the 4, although I like the 2 a lot better than the 4. The 4 is kind of here because it's Chad Brown. I don't love it. Hey, by the way, Chad Brown only 17% in maiden claiming turf routes at Gulfstream Park the last 5 years. And the last time he got a win was February 2021. But this field, you've got the Pletcher, and then after that, you're reaching for straws. We're both going with a horse that we think is going to go gate to wire. I'm surprised you didn't use the 5, Oliver or Olivier, with your boy Barrios Hector aboard. Second career start here. Joseph Cantonese, only 1 win so far from 23 starts, but you see 10 for 23 in the money. This horse on its debut was bet pretty well, 4-1, and just never ran. Would hit the gate from the start with 7 lengths back, never had a chance. This is a Sunner Classic umpire out of a Curlin mare. This really says 2 turns, or at the very least a mile, 2 turns should be well within the grasp. And I'm hoping that we're going to show some speed. That 5 furlong effort, you're not really going to be able to look at and say, yeah, we're going 5 furlongs to a mile. The horse never ran. But look at the works. You see the 4 furlongs works that were 47-3 from the gate, 47-3, 47 flat. There's a lot of sharp gate work, or a lot of sharp works here on the dirt. The question is, can the horse take it to turf? Because Classic Empire, 24% dirt routing. That is his best stat. Routing is great. The dirt part, and we get to turf, he's just 10% winner's turf route. I'm hoping that the fact that I'm catching this in an interesting spot against a weak field is what pushes him forward.
I'm not sure where this horse is going to be placed. It was one of the bigger question marks here in this race. Is what's the 5 going to do? Because you could make a case that they're trying to train speed into the horse. That clearly has been a key after hitting the gate in that first start. They debuted him at 5 furlongs or 5.5 furlongs on the synthetic. That's somewhere you want to go toward the front. So you would think that was, again, speed focus getting into that race. To me, there's just too many question marks, and you're going to need to take too big of a step forward against this field. Right to his outsides, the 6 horses, Jerry's Turn. I don't see how Jerry's Turn doesn't get the lead in this race. And that, to me, is why I ended up putting the 6 horse on the ticket here. I hate the fact that this horse is 0 for 22. And rarely do I advocate using an 0 for 22 maiden. Whenever I do, it's because they are doing something new. Well, in this case, if you look at this horse and what Tim Hillis has done to try and screw him up royally, this horse has run on synthetic at a mile, on dirt on a mile, a turf at a mile 16th, and 5.5 furlongs on the turf in his last 4 races. That really doesn't help the horse out very much. You got to try and have some consistency here. And if you go back and you look at the 2-turn turf races in the past, that's where he was his best. He actually ran second by a nose with a 72 buyer going a mile right here in the same level, except at 50K instead of 40K. 2 turns on the turf is what this horse is best at. If you take out every race that's not 2 turns on the turf, you have a horse that's like 0 for 4 and has been hit the board 3 times. Like all of a sudden, it's a completely different horse and looking at 0 for 22. So I'm going to make a case here that Jerry's Turn makes the lead, and I don't see any other one to press him. And if we're loose up front at Gulfstream, it gets me scared. So I'm going to go 2, 4, 6 here in the final.
Wow. So if you 6 times the horse is routed on turf. And if you knock off the first 2 efforts, the horse was second by a length, second by a nose, got second by 4.5, but second, and then third after setting the pace. I'm just afraid at this point the horse is a great use for underneath in your exotics. Maybe this is the spot to catch. It feels like at one of these points it's going to be Jerry's Turn. I just don't think it's Saturday.
If it wasn't for the pace edge, I wouldn't use this horse. But when I literally can eliminate out 18 of the 22 starts because there were BS places to put the horse, and I can focus on 4, and then I can say your lone speed, I'm going to give you the shot in this spot.
As far as the pace, neither of us using the 1, but I could see the 1 try at least showing speed, breaking from the rail in those first 2 career starts when we tried to get on dirt and then tried to get on turf for the debut and then was in the Proudman Stakes over this course and distance. Did show speed. The 2 starts since then, we had that huge gap of over a year, and then 0 speed shown there. But I would think with this horse breaking from the rail, that's what you could see. I mean, I don't think the horse has a chance to win at all either way, but could you see the 1 also being forwardly placed?
I could. The thing with the 1 is that last race should have been a race you showed speed if you were going to, right? I mean, a mile on the synthetic breaking out of the 8 post, you kind of want to go there, right? It's kind of like being in the 1 in this spot. You should have gone to the front if you thought that was what the horse had the best chance to do to win, and didn't have any excuses at the break from what I saw. And so I I think the one might just be a little slower than he was originally. And you look at the pace too, it's 24:48, the race that he set the pace there. We'll see. The one is definitely one that could try and get to the front though. You're muted.
All right, thank you so much for joining us for the Magic Mike show, and I am now unmuted. This was a fun sequence to go through. It was a long one. Thanks for joining us here. We'll go through our tickets real quick one last time before we talk about Thursday Night Football and get out of here. I'll start. I'm going to go 2-3 with 3-8, then 3-5-8, 11, 12, 4-5-7, and 2-4-5. That is not $72. I apologize. That is $90 for my ticket, and you literally cut that in half because you singled the opening leg there.
Yeah, we're going to start out with a chalky single. We can go 2 with 1-3-8, with 5, 9, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, with 1, 7, with 2, 4, 6. That'll cost you $45 for 50 cents.
It's a fun sequence. If you're playing, let us know. Send us your tickets. We always like to see whether you're for or against us. It's a lot of fun because, especially if you get one right that we didn't, next time you're in the chat on the live show, we'll sing your praises here. Mike, we'll end the horse racing talk for now. Don't forget the Racing Dudes Triple Crown Fantasy League is just over 2 hours away from starting right here on the Racing Dudes YouTube channel. Make sure you set your alarms for that one. But we've also got an interesting Thursday Night Football matchup here. We've got the Brock Purdy show going to Seattle. What could possibly go wrong tonight when they're 3.5-point favorites?
Who knows? Who knows? Right now, there's a must-win game for Seattle, so you should expect to see a really motivated effort out of them. I have no interest in betting the side here. It's San Francisco minus. I had this minus 3.2 for San Francisco, so right in between the juiced 3.5 that you're seeing here. You're seeing San Francisco minus 3.5 even, or San Francisco minus 3 minus 120. I think that both of those lines are kind of correct. That's where it should be priced. I would lean toward taking the 3.5 with Seattle, but I would want 110 if I was going to play it. I think the edge in this game is to look at one of the team totals. You can get San Francisco over 148.5 rushing yards in the game. Seattle's given up at least 160 in 4 straight weeks, including 2 of those against the Bucs and the Rams, who absolutely cannot run the football. The fact that you have Brock Purdy's first road game means that San Francisco is going to have a run-heavy diet. If you're playing DFS, I'm not a huge DFS guy, but if you're a big DFS person, the backup running back, Mason, rookie out of Georgia Tech for San Francisco, is going to pick up the workload here for Deebo Samuels. I think he gets the Deebo carries. I think he even may get some of McCaffrey's carries because they're going to protect McCaffrey even more coming down the stretch. He's averaging over 5 yards a carry and got 11 rushes last week and had over 50 yards. I think he's a good captain and crew guy to put in the captain spot, so you can absolutely blow up the prices with everybody else that you want to go with. If I couldn't find any props for Mason, but if your book is offering you Mason props, like a same game parlay with Mason over rushing yards somewhere in the 20s, I would take that as well.
I'll give you a player prop before we get out of here, too. I've been pretty good with these. George Kittle, tight end for the San Francisco 49ers. By the way, George Kittle, a huge fan of the AEW. So we absolutely love George Kittle here on the Magic Mike Show and RacingDudes.com. But you can get him at 40.5 receiving yards I'm seeing right now. Seattle actually not good against tight ends. You think of the Legion of Boom that they could usually shut that down. Not so much. And if they're going to be focusing on the run game, trying to stop that with a rookie running back out of Georgia Tech, like you're talking about, I think George Kittle is a great option for play action. By the way, we've got Brock Purdy, who is not super confident and not super strong in a long pass game, but you give him those play action dump offs to Kittle. Kittle's good enough that you can get, he should get 5, 6, 7, 8 receptions here. One of those, he'll get long enough yards. If you go over 40.5 yards for George Kittle, that's my player prop bet for tonight.
I am surprised how much Kittle has fizzled out this year. Like, I don't understand why he's all of a sudden not like this Travis Kelce-esque tight end. It's just the fall from grace has been massive for him. I also have more. He's
been too focused on his wrestling training. He's trying to join Pentagon Jr. in the AEW Penta. That's literally for like Aaron and Dennis when he listens back here on the replay. That's for us. So all right,
run over the rails real quick because we're going to go way over the rails for a second.
No antics of any kind except speed, and there we go with the antics.
It's me every time.
Did I actually read that a wrestler got fired for having an OnlyFans account?
Close. She was. There's debate about what's true. She is no longer a WWE talent. Is no longer with WWE. She had a not OnlyFans. It's something that's a step down risque wise from that. Fan time. I think.
Okay.
Anyway, she's a fitness. She's also been a fitness model in a ton of magazines and stuff and on covers. And they let her have this account where she was doing bikini stuff. And apparently, I haven't seen it, but apparently it's no longer a bikini shot site. And the WWE was like, okay, that's too far for you. There's accounts about whether it was amicable or whether they told her and she still kept doing it. It's also true that she makes more money doing that than being a WWE talent. So go make your money.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild to me to think that clearly they are selling sex, right, in wrestling. Like, yeah, oh no, don't worry, I'm going to get to that in a second. Clearly they're selling sex in wrestling, so then to say you can't sell sex is a problem. I mean, it kind of blows my mind. The fact that Dr. Chang knew this right away, I also think there has to be.
He was the first one in the chat to scream out Mandy Rose in all caps. That's a little telling there, Doc.
So, and I also like that you specifically said, "Oh, I haven't seen it." Like, and then he's just jumping
because
in.
I knew that was the thing. It's not an OnlyFans. So I don't have an account over there. This is fan.
So
it's fan time, right, Aaron? Wasn't that what it was?
Yeah,
isn't that what you told me? Yeah.
Account. We found that out at Dead Breeders' Cup, right?
So I think it's not like you get an account and then you just get access to everything. You have to like subscribe and pay. It's like Patreon, but for sex, basically, right? Isn't that kind of what it is?
I wouldn't know.
All right, that's time for us to get out of here. We got to get ready for the draft, which is going to be 2 hours. Set your alarms. Yeah, we're not even going to talk about that or the fact that they gave her that name for a specific reason. But hey, the Racing Dudes Triple Crown Fantasy League draft is tonight in 2 hours. Tune in for that. Make sure you catch the replay if you miss it, even if the audio form. Trust me, there's a lot through all the bullshit that I'm going to put on tonight. There is a lot of good, helpful information there too. So tune in for that one. Yeah, see how many. I'm going to set the over under at 3.5 Bafferts taken in the top 9. Do you take the over on that?
Yes, there'll be 4.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I know who the 4th one is. But we'll figure that out. See you there until tonight in a couple little bits. I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this weekend, guys. Except if you're in our fantasy league, then that.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.